Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're pushing way past those sanitized pop culture myths. We are looking at the raw, unadulterated power of one of the absolute most fearsome deities in the ancient world, Poseidon. We're going to audit his complete arsenal of powers and weapons, pulling directly from ancient texts and historical evidence, just to see exactly why the ancients completely trembled at his name. So when you picture Poseidon today, what actually comes to mind? Is it kind of like a friendly merman, maybe a bearded guy with a pitchfork, just hanging out with talking fish? Pop culture has seriously done a number on Poseidon, right? It's largely reduced him to just, the ocean guy. But to the ancient Greeks, he was infinitely more complex and, frankly, utterly terrifying. He wasn't just confined to the beach. His domain stretched deep, deep into the literal foundations of the earth itself.
Okay, let's dive into this. Way before the classical Greek era we all know, there was the Bronze Age Mycenaean civilization. And in their ancient Linear B clay tablets, we find this incredibly chilling title for Poseidon, Enosigaios, which translates to Earth Shaker. This etymology is really our first major clue. It proves his original, terrifying power extended far beyond the crashing waves of the sea, right down into the tectonic plates beneath their feet.
So to truly grasp what he was capable of, we're going to audit his domain step by step. First, we'll look beyond the ocean realm at his pre-Olympian origins. Then, we'll check out his ultimate weapon, the trident. Next up, his famous role as Master of the Deep, followed by his chaotic power as the terrifying Earth Shaker, and finally, his rather surprising dominion as the Father of the Equine.
All right, Section 1, Beyond the Ocean Realm, the Pre-Olympian Origins.
To really understand Poseidon's true power level, we actually have to look backward, far before he was sitting comfortably on Mount Olympus. We have to look at his chthonic, or underworld, roots. In Bronze Age Pylos, he wasn't just some sea god, he held the title 1x, which had these really strong chthonic aspects, effectively making him a lord of the underworld. Then, in Mycenaean Knossos, he was Inchi-Dione, the earth-shaking chthonic power. And over in the isolated ancient region of Arcadia, he was worshipped as Hippios, a god of inland waters and horses. See, long before the Greeks were a seafaring people, they were an inland people, and Poseidon was their dark, incredibly powerful god of the rumbling earth and the world below.
Moving on to Section 2, the ultimate weapon, the trident.
Now, you absolutely cannot talk about an ancient god's arsenal without looking at his signature weapon. And the trident wasn't just some symbol, it was a divine tool of mass destruction forged by the Cyclops. Think about it. When the universe was up for grabs, Zeus, Hades, and Poseidon needed ultimate weapons to overthrow the previous generation of gods, the Titans. Zeus got the thunderbolt, Hades got the helm of darkness, and Poseidon, he got this massive three-pronged spear. After their victory, the brothers drew lots to divide up the world. Zeus took the sky, Hades took the underworld, and Poseidon secured the vast, untamable sea. But the earth? That remained a shared battleground where his trident could really do some serious damage.
And when Poseidon strikes the earth with his ultimate weapon, the geographical consequences are just devastating. He triggers massive earthquakes, he can literally smash rocks apart to completely alter the landscape. In fact, ancient myths credit him with draining the massive valley of Tempe in Thessaly just by cleaving the mountains wide open. Conversely, a strike can create chaotic, gushing freshwater springs, or unleash monstrous, punishing floods to wipe out entire regions. It's literally a tool of terraforming through sheer violence.
Just consider how the guy handled rejection. Poseidon and Athena were competing to become the patron deity of a new city. Athena offered the people a highly useful olive tree. Poseidon struck the ground with his trident and created a saltwater spring. Well, the people chose Athena's practical gift, and the city became Athens. Poseidon's reaction? He flew into an absolute rage, struck the ground again, and sent a monstrous flood to entirely engulf the Attic plain. This is a god whose temper tantrums literally reshaped the map.
Which brings us to Section 3, Master of the Deep, Ruler of the Seas.
So while he's obviously most famous for the water, his rule over it is defined by this terrifying duality. On one hand, Poseidon is the savior of ships. If you appease him properly, he calms the seas, protects sailors on their voyages, and absolutely guarantees the fishing nets are full of tuna. But on the flip side, we see the bringer of storms. If he gets offended, he unleashes the winds, shatters fleets against the rocks, and actively drowns his enemies. Ancient sailors didn't just pray to him out of love, They prayed to him out of a desperate, paralyzing fear of his wrath. And the ultimate case study of this wrath is found right in Homer's Odyssey.
The Greek hero Odysseus makes the fatal mistake of blinding the Cyclops Polyphemus, who just so happens to be Poseidon's son. And Poseidon doesn't just kill Odysseus, he tortures him. He sends relentless storms that systematically destroy Odysseus's entire fleet, drown all of his companions, and delay his return home to Ithaca for 10 agonizing years. It just perfectly shows the sheer scale, the persistence, and the utter vindictiveness of Poseidon when you cross him.
All right, Section 4, the terrifying Earth Shaker, controller of seismic chaos.
Shifting gears from the water, we return to land, to his absolute most violent domain, the tectonic instability of the Earth itself. The ancients used two highly contrasting titles for him here. First, we have Enosagaios, the Earth Shaker, who violently splits the ground. But we also have the Miliochos, which translates to upholding the foundations. Now, why does this matter? Well, because the ancients believed the very god who caused the earthquakes was the exact same god you had to pray to in order to protect your buildings from collapsing. It perfectly captures the natural volatility of the Greek landscape. They literally believed underground rivers eroded rocks until the earth collapsed, meaning the god of water and the god of earthquakes had to be one and the same person.
And finally, Section 5, Father of the Equine, Lord of Horses.
This brings us to what's probably the most surprising of his domains, his deep, ancient, and highly physical connection to beasts. Just listen to this line from the ancient Homeric hymn to Poseidon. A twofold office the gods allotted you, O shaker of the earth, to be a tamer of horses and a savior of ships. Right there in the sacred text, they seamlessly link his elemental sea power directly to his dominion over horses. To us today, those seem completely unrelated, right? But to the ancients, they were intimately connected.
So the crucial point is, across the ancient inland region of Arcadia, he was worshipped primarily as Hippios, Lord of Horses. He literally created the first horse Skyphios by cracking a rock open with his trident. He was credited with teaching mankind how to use a bridle. The myths even say he took the form of a stallion to mate with the goddess Demeter, siring a fabulous, immortal talking horse named Arion. And yes, he even fathered the famous winged horse Pegasus with Medusa. In the minds of the ancient Greeks, the thundering, stampeding hooves of horses, the deep, terrifying rumbling of an earthquake, and the violent crashing of ocean waves were all expressions of the exact same raw, unbridled kinetic energy. Poseidon wasn't just a god, he was the personification of unstoppable momentum.
Which leaves us with a really fascinating question to end on. The ancient Greeks lived in a highly volatile world of flash floods, sudden storms, and devastating earthquakes. They processed that terrifying, untamable chaos by giving it a name, handing it a trident, and giving it a deeply vindictive personality. It was their way to make sense of the senseless. But look at the world today. We still face those exact same violent forces of nature. So what does this all mean for us? How do we psychologically process them now? What is our modern equivalent for making sense of the earth shaking beneath our feet? Definitely something to think about. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.